I was, when you said that speech is a way of going to your, back to yourself, or I'm not recalling the right word. I was thinking a few things. One is speech could go either way. Is that right? Sort of towards oneself, or continue to keep someone out of oneself. And then the other thing is, I was expecting you to say, rather than towards oneself, towards consciousness. But maybe you're linking consciousness and self as interchangeable, as the same thing.
Yes, yes. I think for the sake of the conversation now, yes, I am. You know, when I say we're reaching ourselves, we're reaching the consciousness out of which, through the various operations that we've described, the world is manifested. We perceive the world and we engage that world.
Could help one find oneself, or become conscious, or could go the other way as well. Could lead one away from oneself, or away from their consciousness.
Well, it's not speech itself, it's where the awareness is. You see, speech itself is not going to do anything. It's our awareness that's going to do something. I mean, what we're doing is that there is an illusion, that there is an ignorance into the ultimate reality, and in fact, very often the immediate reality of things. And what we're looking to do is we're looking to remove that ignorance. This is the process. So speech is the handle. Speech, as Bhartrihari described to us, and Abhinavagupta is going to get into great detail regarding this, the basic essence of speech and language is sequencing, is that we have syllables that are sequenced, and we end up with an application and with a meaning. So, this gives us the sort of the foundation for the world that we're going to create, which is time. And from time arises space and all the phenomenal world. What these great masters of speech were doing is giving a way, handles of how this world is created through the sequencing. And once this world is created, how you return to the source of that world through that same process. This is the speech of the great grammarians. It's not just shooting our mouths off. That's not that's not how I'm talking about this. Shooting your mouth off, but then being aware of what it is that you're articulating, what it is in the madhyama state, as we described, the speech before it leaves the lips, and then what it sounds like, and then how what it sounds like relates back to its formation in the madhyama state of speech, of consciousness.
I was just wondering whether, is it that the next step will look at some of these texts in detail, or is that something like you really have to start with learning Sanskrit in order to do?
Well, you know, the problem in looking at these texts in detail is that it's like not knowing the basics of computer programming and then trying to understand a very sophisticated technical thing in computer languages. So what I think is that, as in reading the Vedas, you can pick up a translation, an English translation of the Vedas, and read it, and it's wonderful, especially if it's a good translator. I think some of the 19th century translations are my favorite. But what you're getting from that is you're getting a very wonderful aesthetic. But if you think that you're getting a sublime knowledge, you're not. So I think that more interesting would be perhaps to take a couple passages from the texts and bring those out and follow this progression that we started with Panini, we moved to Patanjali, we went on to Bhartrihari, where meaning and philosophy started to arise, and now we arrived in Kashmir for 300 years, about the 9th to the 12th century, something like this, and we have a virtual explosion of this movement, this in a sense a blossoming of this knowledge and speculation. But I'm a contrarian, and actually I see that the greatest manifestation of this knowledge was before Panini, and we're in a devolution, which means that we need more and more explanation of things, that things are not as obvious as they once might have been. So we find the compounding and the vrittis expanding, and more explanation and commentary, so that people can still come to grips and understand this material. Bhattochi Dikshita, who redacted Panini in the Middle Ages in Varanasi, in other words, he made Panini accessible to the students of the time, would have been redundant in the time of Panini. He wasn't needed, he wasn't necessary. People got it. But 1,500 years later, 2,000 years later, people couldn't get it. It was beyond them. It was too complicated. It was too sophisticated. And they needed somebody to break it down, organize it in a different sort of way so that they could comprehend it. Now, curiously enough, we're in a very similar situation today. And part of my challenge, my personal intellectual challenge, my challenge with students, my challenge with an audience, my challenge with you, is to find a way of continuing to redact this knowledge, to reorganize it a little bit, to put it into a shape where we don't lose it. One cannot just repeat what was said 500 years ago or 1,000 years ago, because the geographical, the historical, the sociological, and the political influences are massively different, and we have to deal with these things.